The unfortunate reality of it is this is Indian bureaucracy working as it was intended. So this is what it's supposed to do. It's not that this is a failure. This is what it was designed to do. It's designed to be risk averse. It's designed to protect elite power and elite interests. And it's designed to focus more on the process than the outcome. And why is that? Where do all of these institutions come from? Where does the Indian Police Act come from? Where does the Civil Service Act come from? Where does the Indian Penal Code come from? They all come from just within a few years of 1858. So after the First War of Independence of 1857, 1 year later after it was crushed, British rule in India was transferred from the East India Company to the Crown and became the British Raj. And they created state institutions that were designed to prevent a repeat of 1857 ever happening again. And what did that mean? It meant criminalizing just the normal behaviors of everyone, regulating everything so that you can arrest anyone for any excuse and nip problems in the bud, to protect state power from the aspirations of the people and to extract revenue for the crown. Why is the district magistrate also called the district collector? Because it's his task to squeeze tax out of the peasantry. The building that the district magistrate sits in, the entire compound, which is the district administration, is called the collectorate because that's where taxes were collected. Do any of our governance structures, our famous institutions, exist at the grassroots? No, they fortify themselves. So be it the police, be it the administration, they fortify themselves in this very nice green area where they live in big bungalows. The office is surrounded by guards. It's full of very intimidating and abrasive clerical staff who are designed to discourage you from bothering the high-ups. If you have a problem, do you phone the police and then they come to your village or come to your neighborhood? No, only if you're rich. Otherwise, you have to go to the Thana and then beg them and beg and beg and beg to pay attention to you. With a high likelihood, they'll lock you up for causing trouble. There was an incident a few years ago where there was a young man in Bihar who went to file a police complaint. Because, of course, the police is not going to come to his house. He's poor. And he spoke English to one of the police officers. He asked, "Can you please tell me the name of the IPC code in which this is to be charged?" The policeman got angry. "Oh, look at this guy showing off his English. He thinks he's better than me," and beat him up and locked him up. Now, that's the level of government services that we have. So, of course, people are afraid of going to the police, afraid of going to the administration, afraid of a court case, because the court case is the punishment. No matter what happens in the outcome 10 years, 15 years later, the fact that you are now wasting your life, your time, your energy, your money, your youth on going to the court and being kicked around like a ball, that's the punishment. So it's not designed to serve citizens and empower them with rights. It's designed to keep the natives at a distance so that they don't have the opportunity to question or challenge the established order. Now, generally, when there is a historical change in governance, and that could be, for example, the end of the caliphate in Turkey and Ataturk came to power, one of the first things you do is create a new penal code, create a new civil law structure, create a new civil service. Or another example is in the 90s. In Central and Eastern Europe, you had countries like Hungary and Poland and Czechoslovakia who transitioned from being socialist countries to modern liberal democracies. They passed laws called lustration laws, which allowed the state to hold hearings against any bureaucrat, any academic, anyone who drew a government salary could be called publicly in front of a panel, in front of a tribunal, in front of a judge, and people could raise their complaints. And if this person was found to have been acting as a party stooge or oppressing people, they were removed from the service, and that allowed for renewal of the government services in those countries with a new mentality, be it community policing instead of barracks policing, or be it populating the civil service with people who believed in the new constitution and weren't just actively working to sabotage it and go back to the old ways because that's what they're comfortable with. That's something that we didn't do in 47. It's something that we tried to do in 77 after the emergency, but failed because the civil service is too strong and sabotaged it. The judiciary is the same. It's something that we should have done in the 90s as well. When we had economic liberalization, we didn't pursue political liberalization as well. In every other country, the two went together as a big bang moment. but we still have colonial era extractive government institutions which are process oriented, don't care about the outcomes, are status quoist. Their obsession is keeping things the way they are because they're comfortable with the way things are. And that needs to be shaken up. So you need radical reforms at every level. At recruitment needs to change. There's various other models. You should be able to hire people at any age, not just by giving the exam. Some percentage of them, sure, can come through an exam. The exam can also be widened. So Singapore makes people give the exam in high school and then grooms them from the age of 18 to be the ideal civil servant. Whereas countries like in Western Europe or the Anglosphere, you can join a government job by applying for it like any other job. You apply for it, you get a 3-year contract. If you're good, you'll get promoted or extended. If you're bad, you'll be weeded out. France and China have the civil service system where they have the academy, but France is dismantling it now and replacing it with a new institution and a new exam because they felt that it was simply a school for breeding generation after generation of elites who all thought the same and all had the same networks and were just running an old boys club. And China has had the longest history of civil service exams for thousands of years. It's an imperial Chinese invention. But at least now they test their knowledge on things that are relevant to their party and state because there's a consensus on what the People's Republic of China stands for and what its goals and ambitions are. That's recruitment. The second is contracts. Nobody should be on a permanent contract anymore. They need to fear losing their jobs, so they should be on short-term contracts, 3 to 5 years. Right now, they're on 3 to 5 year cycles of transfers, but that's abused. Let's say if you're the rare honest officer, you'll be transferred 6 times in 2 years as a punishment for getting too involved or asking too many questions or bothering your political master. So politicians should not have the right to transfer you. And purely internally, there should be an internal tribunal and HR system that allows for contract renewals, disciplinary action, and promotions. Apart from that, there should be constant training. So people should constantly be learning. It's not that, you just passed the exam and now here's your career red carpet, run with it for 30 years. Whenever you want to get promoted, whenever you're being moved from one department to another, it should be a 6-month training program. You have to pass it. You have to take it seriously. If you pass it, you make it to the next round. And people say, it's impossible to reform the civil service because who's going to implement it? The civil service themselves. Well, you have to put the fear of God into them. Tell them if you want to be paid, if you want your children to eat, if you want your children to afford the fees at Harvard where you keep sending them, then you do what you're told. You're a government employee. You're called a civil servant for a reason. You're not an entrepreneur. You don't own the country. You don't run the country. You do what you're told. If you don't like that, you can take voluntary retirement and leave. But these are the new rules. You follow them. And if you don't follow them, there are literally 10,000 people for each position who are willing to replace you. You can cut the salary in half, they'll still do it. There are people who will do it for free. And if all else fails, you can always do what they're doing anyway, is hiring McKinsey consultants to do all the legwork and then taking credit for it. You have to be bold, as Thomas Sankara in Burkina Faso said. He was a great radical reformer of the bureaucracy. You have to have the courage to invent the future. You can't just live in the cage that was made for you by the colonizer, thinking, it's a very beautiful cage, and if I change it, the world outside is scary. Yeah, everything's scary. Live with it. Equip yourself with the tools to deal with it.